Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo, coming off a pretty disappointing loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll tell you what, we beat ourselves that game. There is no other way to say it. Joe Judge and his just ridiculous use of timeouts. The guy does not know how to use timeouts, and he's a professional head coach in the NFL. I don't understand some of the decisions he makes. At the end of the game, there's 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. He lets it wind all the way down to the 2-minute warning. I'm watching the Eli and Peyton broadcast. They're sitting there like, what is he doing? Peyton's like, I don't really understand what he's doing. He's literally like leaving time. Like you take that timeout and then you use the 2-minute warning as another timeout and you save a couple seconds there. Instead he waits until the 2-minute warning and then takes a timeout right after and wastes a couple seconds. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't really understand. The identity of this team is lost. There's no discipline. His team's fighting. Colin Johnson fighting with guys. Tate Crowder trying to rip people's heads off. I don't understand what they're doing. The defense played well. I was very impressed with them at times. The turnovers they created were really momentous and at good opportunities, but the offense, once again, I mean, a lot of people throwing Daniel Jones under the bus here, saying that he wasn't good, this and that. He had a couple of bad decisions. The first interception, stared down Darius Slay, and I'm going to put the blame on him for that entirely. But we're talking about a guy who literally had no time in the pocket against a Kansas City defense pass rush that played very poorly this year up to this point, and they made our offensive line look really bad. I mean, Matt Pert, Nate Solder did not look entirely good. Matt Pert was okay at times, but he was getting beat. Billy Price and Will Hernandez had awful games. Awful. Will Hernandez was destroyed by Chris Jones on almost every snap I was watching him. Billy Price got turned around so bad he ran into his own freaking running back in the first half. The offensive line was abysmal. Sterling Shepard got knocked out. Kadarius Toney was essentially a decoy the entire game. He did not get involved. He hurt his wrist later on. He was basically just out there as a decoy. And Jason Garrett could not scheme anything better than throwing fades in the end zone to freaking Sterling Shepard and Kyle Rudolph. I don't understand what his obsession with the freaking fade is. Take that outside the barn and kill it and leave it there. Leave that freaking page in the playbook behind it. Anthony says this all the time. I'm really fucking pissed off right now because at the end of the day, the Chiefs tried to give us this game. They were like handing it to us on a silver platter, and Jason Garrett and Joe Judge basically were like, nah, we don't want it. That looks too tasty for us. We don't want it. Patrick Graham, he called a good game on defense. I give him a lot of credit. I give those guys a lot of credit for coming up. They didn't do so well against the run at times. That offsides against Oceanic Zimenez was a huge change of momentum at the end of the game there, and I don't think he played well at all, but I was happy with Leonard Williams. James Bradbury looked good. Adoree Jackson looked good. The safeties looked good. I thought altogether I was very impressed with how they held it together against Patrick Mahomes. They made him look like a normal average quarterback, but ultimately the offense is awful. I mean, we're talking about a unit that is ranked bottom 6 in the league in points allowed, a secondary that is historically bad, and they just could not do anything at times. There was a couple of decent drives, Anthony, but how are you feeling after this game? I know it's tough to swallow this one because they really tried to give this one away, but we just didn't want it.
Yeah, personally, this isn't too tough for me to swallow, honestly. I'm not surprised by this loss. This just feels like every other New York Giants loss to me. So I'm not that upset. Like, I'm not irate right now. This is pretty much what I expected. I said I think the Giants are going to put in a good effort. They're going to fight hard, and they're going to come up short in the end because that's just the New York Giants way now. The Giants way is no longer being the more disciplined and the smarter football team that punches you in the mouth for 60 minutes and wins. No, it's the team that fights hard but comes up short because they make key mistakes all throughout the game that just add up into a disappointing, heartbreaking loss. So they don't break my heart anymore. This field goal, this game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker, I was like, man, yeah, saw that coming. It is what it is at this point. I've reached that breaking point as a Giants fan where now I'm just kind of numb to all of this. This is literally just another Monday, another Sunday, another Thursday. It's the same thing, rinse and repeat every single week for the Giants. We get close and then we lose at the end, right? That's the same thing that happened against the Broncos. They were in it up until the fourth quarter. Then they blew it out of the water once Melvin Gordon ripped a 75-yard touchdown run, right? Heartbreaker. And then week 2, lose on a field goal. Week 3, lose on a field goal. Here we are once again, losing on a field goal. Doesn't surprise me. It happens all the freaking time. And, as much as we want to place blame on specific people, it is, once again, I've said this so many times, a top to bottom issue. This was coaching. This was management. Like, there weren't enough good players out on the field for the Giants. That's A. Like, number one, there wasn't enough talent on this team to win. B, you're right. The Chiefs were handing us this game, and the coaching staff could not put our players in position to win the game. So, yes, management, coaching, that's A and B. And then C, when you actually go down to the players and the talent level that they have, They did have enough to win this game, and they did not execute. Execution is C. They failed on all three levels there. Okay, if you want to look at one play for execution, I'll mention two plays: one defensive play, one offensive play. Offensive play first. Daniel Jones. It's a 3rd and 2, crucial drive in the game. It's a speed option. He can shovel pass or pitch it out wide to the running back, or he can take it himself. The running back is open. He just has to pitch it, let the running back gain 2 yards. He tries to dive forward, head first into contact. It doesn't get the first down. Giants have to punt. Now, that kills a bunch of clock. That hands the Chiefs the ball. That takes the ball out of the hands of the Giants. That was a bad decision, right? It's those small little decisions that add up. And then another one, poor execution down the line. Giants defense is on the field against the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes throws an interception on a great play, great break on the ball by Darnell Holmes. O'Shane Ximines is offsides, and it gets called back. Execution was also a thing here. So as much as we want to blame Joe Judge, he failed to execute in clock management. But this is a top to bottom. There's such poor execution on every level, and this is just how it's going to be, guys. This is literally how the New York Giants are going to be until hopefully next season. Hopefully it changes a little bit next season, But this is a team that, once again, we are in year 4 of this fake rebuild that Dave Gettleman put us under. Well, once Dave Gettleman is gone at the end of the year, or maybe even before the end of the year, we're going to have to go through another rebuild. Unfortunately, this is very clear and obvious to me because this Chiefs team is not good. They did not play good tonight, and we still ended up losing because we just don't know how to execute.
And ultimately, that's it, man. Joe Judge, I'm off the wagon. I'm going cold turkey on the freaking Joe Judge train, man. That what he does in game, the adjustments he makes, the usage of timeouts, and the overall way he calls this game and his players fighting, and he preaches discipline, and he preaches that everyone needs to be in the game and focused and not fighting, and the putting consequences. It's a load of shit, man. It's a load of freaking shit because it doesn't matter. They're going out there fighting anyway. You know what I mean? He's a special teams guru, and Cam Brown's touching it and giving them an extra 5 yards. His punter, he's a 34-yard shank to give Kansas City a fantastic field position to march down the field and score to win the game. You know what I mean? Like, everything that he's supposed to be good at, he is awful at. His players are not disciplined, poor execution, a couple offsides on the defense side of the ball. I mean, Jason Garrett's red zone offense is, I don't even want to talk about some of the plays he calls there. And the fact that, like, the screens were working, Devontae Booker was doing well on the screens, but, like, then he just went away from it. Like, we didn't run any more screens. Like, Kadarius Toney didn't get involved in the screen game. There was not one pass to Kadarius Toney on a screen. I don't know why. That's literally his best way to use him. Sterling Shepard, they used him twice and, got 1-2 yards. Darius Slayton trying to block is like watching a stick figurine try to block a freaking elephant. Doesn't even make sense. Like, Darius Slayton, that drop on the final drive on the second down, that then Daniel Jones, misses that next throw. It's just bad, man. Poor execution. You got to make these plays. Kansas City's giving you a win. They're trying to give you this game, and the Giants are beating themselves again. And Dave Gettleman's inability to build an offensive line. I don't want to hear this shit. I don't want to hear anybody say that Zach Fulton, that Shane Lemieux was the savior of this offensive line. We missed Andrew Thomas big time today, but the injuries are inexcusable. And Dave Gettleman said this. He verbatim said, injured players get injured. And he went out and he signed Kenny Golladay, who's played, 4 games this year? He went out and got a bunch of guys that are injury prone. Elgin Smith, Aaron Robinson, both haven't even played. Aaron Robinson came in and got toasted in the first game, the first half. They had to take him out and put in Keon Crossan. You know what I mean? This team is an absolute shambles. You know what I mean? The management is failing miserably to put together a team that's even capable of winning against bad teams. Kansas City looked like a below average team today, and we lost an embarrassing game to them. You know what I mean? Like, this is just, I'm over it, Anthony. Like you, I've reached the boiling point. I'm done. Like, obviously we're still here to get you guys through the rest of the season, but at the end of the day, they got to blow this shit up, man. Evan Ingram's got to be traded tomorrow. Sterling Shepard's got to be traded tomorrow. I don't even know what his injury is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just done, man. This team is not going anywhere. We cannot give Joe Judge another opportunity to run this team next year if this is what it's going to look like, if he can't call timeouts correctly. He used a timeout on the first drive of the game. You know what I mean? The first drive of the game, he used a timeout. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Watching football all these years, I don't think I've ever seen a head coach call a timeout on the first drive of the game, and then he calls a timeout on his first or second possession on offense. I don't know what he's thinking, man. Like, he just doesn't think that you can use timeouts. Like, those are important things. Like, both drives at the end of the game, the end of the half and the end of the game, we had no timeouts to spare, no timeouts to work with. It's because of his lackluster freaking ability to figure out when to use them. He's just not a good coach, man. Like, everything he says, it's just talk and talk and talk and nothing to show for it. I don't know what else to say. Like, do you think it's time to blow it up? Like, I think there's some good players. I think the defense is getting better. I think they're stepping up and showing us that they got some stuff. They got some juice left, but like, some of these offensive guys got to go. Like, Evan Ingram's traded tomorrow, in my opinion.
I mean, I thought Evan Engram played fine tonight. I'm not gonna, sit here and beat the dead horse on Evan Engram. Of course, I've been the advocate to trade Evan Engram since like week 2, but he did play good tonight. Like, he had a good game, had a touchdown, it was a pretty good catch. But yeah, just taking the long-term approach, the Giants should start offloading some of their assets for draft capital because they're not going to win this year, right? They're not going to be a Super Bowl or even a playoff team this year. So you might as well just get what you can for the future because the Giants are still going to be in a rebuild next year. So why drag players who are in the prime of their careers through this rebuild? Just get young, get some good talent that's young, and start rebuilding. You do have to blow it up. No, you don't blow it up now. This is not the game that causes the Giants to blow it up. If there was a game that caused the Giants to blow it up, it would have been that Rams game. This can't be the game to let the Giants that causes the Giants to blow it up. Like, they lost 20-17 to the Chiefs. If they did this last year, we'd be saying, damn, the Giants are one piece away from winning in the playoffs, right? If they lost, I mean, that's what we said last year. They lost by 2 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we said, oh, they're 1 or 2 pieces away from being a playoff team. So, now the narrative is obviously different because it's been a whole year. We added those 1 or 2 pieces, and we're still losing by 3 points to playoff teams. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not that upset about this loss. Like, I'm never happy about moral victories. I understand 20-17 with the Chiefs could be a moral victory to some. It's not to me. This is just literally exactly what I expected from the Giants. And I said it all week. This is going to be a close, competitive game that the Giants are going to lose. And that's exactly what it was. So I'm not upset by it. I think that this is the exact talent level of the New York Giants, is to come close but lose games like this because that's just where they are. They have to add more talent, maybe fix the coaching staff. I don't know. I don't think that this coaching staff is doing a good job right now, and they likely do need to make some major changes and probably blow it up in the offseason. But now in week 8, probably not the time to do so. If you want to make a change at general manager before the trade deadline tomorrow, it's probably too late to do that as well. I mean, the trade deadline is in 14 hours. So how are you going to do that? You really can't. So at the end of the day, like I said, this game went exactly the way that I thought it would for the Giants. This is literally the Giants' talent level, is to come close but lose games like this. This is exactly where they are. Now they're actually just playing at their own talent level. They're not playing below it or above it. They're just playing like the New York Giants. This is literally the talent that they have. So obviously, long term, we don't want this to be the case. We don't want this to be the Giants' talent level. We want to win games like this because this was a winnable game. But it's not a winnable game for a team like the New York Giants. They're just not going to win these games. And you can't say that it is because every time they've been in one of these winnable games, they've lost them every single time. So for the Giants, like I said, no, this is not the game for me to just be like, oh, we have to blow it up right now. There's been plenty of games in the past that were far worse than this that could have said blow it up right now. This isn't the blow up game. It will come later on this season. Trust me, believe me. We'll go on the road against some 2-10 team and we'll lose in disgusting fashion. And that will be the one that causes us to blow it up, like the game against the 49ers years ago. This one isn't it. They actually did play a pretty decent football game. They're just not able to execute those little miscues, whether it's from the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback too, the defensive players as well. Like, there are just those small miscues that add up, and that's because they are not a good football team. As bad as we want them to be, they're not a good football team. So I'm being the realist here and just saying the Giants played as well as the Giants could have played tonight, and so I really can't be that upset with it. Yes, it sucks to lose. I'm sick of losing, but this is really the best that you could have expected from this New York Giants football team, in my opinion.
That's fair. And I think that's valid. I think that's actually pretty valid. Like, this is the best we could have expected, but at the end of the day, I think the thing that really pushed me over the edge today specifically was how bad the Chiefs tried to give this game away, and the Giants still punched themselves in the face over and over again. And that's what you expect from bad teams, man. You know what I mean? Good teams look at that Chiefs team and they say, okay, you're going to give me all this. You're going to give me the turnovers. We're going to score on you. We're going to bury you. The Giants were like just punching themselves over and over and over again. From the play calling to the timeout usage to everything. I was happy with the defense. I thought they played well. If the offense was even competent and average, we would have held them to 10 points because the defense was on the field the whole game.
Yes. But I thought that this is one of the better offensive performances from the Giants this season. They just have a bad offense. Like you said, if this is a good football team, they capitalize on these mistakes and they win. The Giants just simply are not a good football team. And that's something that fans, you need to come to grips with. Like, I've come to grips with it now. Like, we're just not a good football team. A good football team, yes, does win this game. The New York Giants, no, they do not win this game. Why? They're not a good football team. This is the exact same fashion that they lost to the Falcons, a bad football team, that they lost to the Washington football team, another bad football team. They're just not going to execute on games like this because they are not a good football team. And even though I know the offense didn't play well enough to win, but this is one of the better offensive performances of the season for the Giants. And also, you were mentioning how the Chiefs had every opportunity, just tried to give the game away, right? So did the Giants. The Giants just actually did. It was literally who's going to give the game away first or who's going to give the game away at the most costly time. And the Giants just happened to be the team because they are the worst team that gave the game away. Both teams were playing down the stretch like they didn't want to win. They were both giving it up, not executing in certain moments. But at the end of the day, the Giants just don't have as much talent as the Chiefs. The Chiefs just have a little bit more talent right now, as bad as their coaching staff has been this year, right? Like Steve Spagnuolo has had a really rough year. As little talent as they have defensively, they still have a Tyreek Hill who went off for 94 yards, 12 receptions, and a touchdown today. Like, the Giants don't have a Tyreek Hill to do that. They had John Ross, 2 receptions for 72 yards as their leading receiver. Their leading receiver only had 72 yards on 2 catches. Like, that's just bad. The Giants just aren't a good football team. Their backup running back had 120 all-purpose yards. He was the bright spot of this team. Like, again, just the lack of talent by the Giants because they're not a good football team. The Chiefs, not saying that they are either, but at the end of the day, I do feel like the better football team won this game, and they won it in the exact fashion that I thought they would.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll finish this off saying this. People think that Daniel Jones has to be an Aaron Rodgers level player for the Giants to be good, and that's just not the case, right? Everyone's like, Daniel Jones needs to be carrying this offense and leading them down the field and scoring with no timeouts and a minute left like Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to be Aaron Rodgers. The Giants needed to build a solid offensive line with solid weapons around Daniel Jones for him to succeed. That was always the case. We always knew this since day one, but instead they built an absolute shit excuse of an offensive line. Everybody's injured. Their wide receiver core is in shreds. They don't have a right tackle. They don't have a left guard. They don't have a center. In a perfect world, everyone stays healthy, but that's just not the NFL. And what this really is an indication of is that we have zero depth. The foundation of the team is broken. Dave Gettleman has failed to build depth at pretty much almost every position. Every position. One player goes down. The linebacker core has been disaster this year without Blake Martinez. If James Bradbury or Dory Jackson went down, holy hell, you don't even want to see what that looks like. The offensive line, Andrew Thomas goes down. Suddenly you have Matt Pert and Nate Solder at tackle, and you're like, this is a disaster. Daniel Jones has no time in the pocket. And yes, he made a couple bad throws, a couple bad mistakes. You can't take a sack there on second down at the end of the game. There's a couple of things that Daniel Jones needs to correct, needs to fix. But that's just part of the football. You can't ever play a perfect game. And he was being beaten and battered and hit and running for his life all game. We're talking about short route concepts, screens, slants, drags. No time to throw the ball. They had one ball that was thrown downfield to John Ross, and I think that was the only attempt downfield they had. Was it not? I think they had one attempt, 20 yards plus downfield, and I think it was to John Ross, which indicates that they had no time to wait for those routes to even develop. You know what I mean? Like, that's what that tells you, unless Jason Garrett is absolutely moronic, which is also probably the case. But that tells you when your offense is throwing one pass 20 plus yards downfield that the offensive line is a problem, and they don't trust it to give Daniel Jones time. So I will say this. Daniel Jones will probably never end up being a good to great quarterback in the NFL because the Giants won't be able to build a team around him for him to succeed. That is probably what's going to happen. The Giants are probably going to have to reset the quarterback button unless they can go into next year and fix the offensive line and have all their weapons healthy, and Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay and Saquon. Like, that's really what it's going to take. But for now, we need to start thinking about for tomorrow, who's on the trade deadline, who's worthy of being traded, and really start talking about the draft, guys, because losing this game, like, you want to hear I'm not even going to tell you our schedule the next couple of weeks because it's freaking brutal. It's brutal. So, guys, I know you're as disappointed as we are. This was a tough one just because of how they beat themselves and how poor they really looked. The defense looked solid. offense. Anthony said he thinks they looked decent, but the failure to score and capitalize off of the defense's turnovers and whatnot is really what bit them in the butt. Offensive line still a disaster. But I got to say, I don't really have much emotion anymore. I'm kind of just numb after all these weeks. It's just like the game ended and I was like, all right, I'll just go to sleep. Like that's kind of how I feel now. But guys, have a good night. Don't let this get to you. Have a good week. We'll have a better future. We're not going anywhere, but we'll stick together, have some therapy sessions in the near future. And that'll be that. But we'll look forward to next week. And guys, make sure to subscribe below on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants video.